The Porsche GT3 Cup is the world's most successful single-make series. For over 30 years, the style and power of the Porsche brand has thrilled racing enthusiasts from around the world. The GT3 Cup races in over 31 countries at over 100 circuits. In Canada, the birthplace of the GT3 Cup, the driver talent is supreme, and the racing competition is relentless. Hello and welcome to the 2018 Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada presented by Yokohama. We're in Bowmanville, Ontario, just outside of Toronto at the legendary Canadian Tire Motorsport Park as Castrol presents Victoria Day Speed Fest. It's the fourth race of the 2018 championship. I'm Dave Bradley along with Kyle Marcelli and Todd Lewis as trackside. Yesterday, IMSA and all the GT3 competitors had everything thrown at them when the weather gods rolled in with intense rain and fog. It was a challenge.
That's right, Dave. It was a wild day. It was wet and the fog was thick. Visibility was difficult around the racing circuit, but mainly in the high ground areas from turn 8 to turn 3.
Zach Robuchon, that number 98 Mark Motors machine, took the lead from the start, and he really never looked back. He continued a strong run from Sebring, where he dominated in rounds 1 and 2.
Zach had a great run here last year in the wet, if I recall, and he's showing the same pace again this weekend. You know, in the dry, this place is fast and requires big commitment. In the rain, you can multiply that by 10.
And there you see the number 96 of Remo Rischetti in the draft of Roma DeAngelis. A little wiggle in turn number 8 and off through the grass into that runoff area. He was lucky to save that car in the wet conditions that we ran in. Not as lucky a little bit later on as he ends up in the tire wall in turn number 4. Good battle through the middle portion of this race. Paul Licaro teammates Jeff Kingsley and Michael DeMaio fought hard back and forth all race long. They seem to be swapping positions nearly every lap.
And after a disappointing run at Sebring International Raceway, the Speedstar Downtown Porsche Group got back on track, and we saw Stefan Radzicki race his way to the podium.
But once again, at the end of this one, it was the 2018 points leader, Zachary Robuchon from Ottawa, Ontario, who took the win in some treacherous conditions. Put on a masterful drive here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, joined on the podium by teammate Roma DeAngelis and Stefan Radzicki. And the Open Road Best Line Auto Group had a busy night repairing the number 96, and with more on that, here's Todd.
Thanks, guys. Yes, it was a busy and eventful race yesterday for Remo Rischetti and the Open Road team. Caused a bit of damage with a couple of offs. The team, though, said it's not as bad as it could have been. The radiator was punctured. There's some cosmetic damage to the left rear. He also broke the brackets on the rear ring. With a wet track, Remo told me that he had to be extra aggressive. There's only one racing line. With a dry track, more opportunities to pass. Could be an exciting race here today.
And Toddy will have a great starting spot, rolling off second behind Robuchon. The car's a little scarred, but you know Rischetti will be in full attack mode. The weather much nicer today than yesterday. Let's take a look at where we are today. Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, located in Bowmanville, Ontario, just an hour and a bit outside of Toronto.
This is a 10-turn, 3.9-kilometer racetrack that has significant elevation and is a real racer's track. Turns 5, 8, and 10 are the good passing zones to look out for.
And this is the old Mosport circuit. It really has everything as far as variety goes, doesn't it, Kyle?
Yeah, it sure does. This place, as you said, is old school. Racers love to come here. Third fastest track in the world for an average speed. Turn 5 is really the only slow corner on the racetrack. Requires full concentration and, as I've said before, huge commitment.
The engines have fired along pit lane. A good look at the 78 of Roma DeAngelis, who's raced in the GT3 Cup USA as well this season. Lots of seat time for the 17-year-old racing for Kelly Moss Road and Race down in the States, looking to elevate from his third-place starting spot here today. They'll have one warm-up lap when they get going. Kyle, how important is it to get heat in those tires?
Well, as you said, just one warm-up lap, and really that's not enough time to generate proper temperature in these Yokohama tires. So that means this first lap is going to be all about car control. You're going to see lots of excitement, and guys need to take advantage of that.
And turn 1 is always very, very interesting, no matter what series is racing here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, but it's especially interesting in the Porsche GT3 Cup cars. As the field rolls off towards turn number 2, we'll take a look at today's starting grid. As we mentioned, Zachary Robuchon starting on pole. Remo Rischetti in the 96 will line up alongside him. Row number 2 has the fellow Mark Motors entry of Roman DeAngelis, and to the outside of him, young Stefan Radzinski starting in 4th. Michael DeMaio making only his 2nd start here today. He'll start to the inside of row number 3. His teammate Jeff Kingsley in the 16 to the outside. Michael Fanton is in the 14 here today. Patrick Dussault back behind the wheel of the 77. Row number 5 has Perry Bortolotti in the number 84, and Martin Harvey is in the 08. And row 6 all by himself is Neil Walker in the number 83.
You see these cars here weaving back and forth, left and right, accelerating, braking, again doing everything they can to generate some temperature. That first lap is always exciting. The cars are going to be a bit squirrely, guys are going to make mistakes, and you know, some of the most exciting racing is going to happen here on the first lap.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about that. The cars being squirrely in the early going. Of course, yesterday, vastly different track conditions. I mean, rain and fog and cool temperatures. Today, you've got the sun starting to poke through the cloud. The temperature on the track is starting to build. How different a setup do you have to put underneath these cars, and how much is it just a guessing game for these crews?
Yeah, yesterday, these guys would have had a full-blown race setup on the car. Softer springs even. They would have taken some of the camber out of the tire to stand it up and increase the contact patch. Now we're on board with Remo Rischetti. Again, you hear him accelerating, braking, generating tire temperature as we're about to go green.
Interesting, too, Zachary Robuchon and Stefan Radzinski, both driving instructors for the Porsche Driving Experience, which takes place on the property over at the driver development track and also right across Canada. So it'd be interesting to watch them. A little home court advantage here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. But Zachary Robuchon has been the class of the field so far this weekend, starting on pole as the field lines up through turn number 9. You can see them bunching closely together as they work their way through turn number 10. Daniel Ponzini, the PR specialist for Porsche Cars Canada, with the green flag in hand as we get set. Now we're underway here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
We consistently see these guys 2x2 through turn 1. It could really go either way. You can run 2x2 through turn 1. You can go side by side through turn 2. And turn 3 is where we'll start to see cars get single file.
DeAngelis up into 2nd, but look at Rischetti in the number 96, not going away without a fight. In the open road Porsche, he's dropped back to 3rd, but still battling hard there. Now through turn number 3, single file. Zachary Robuchon, your leader in the early going as we work our way through turn 4 up towards 5A and B. Moss Corner here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
So this is the slowest part of the racetrack. These cars will be down into 2nd gear as they accelerate onto the back straightaway up into turn 8, the fastest part of the circuit.
And just listen. It is really hard to beat the sound of a Porsche GT3 Cup car, full song down the Andretti straightaway here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. A good look at Michael Fanton and Perry Bortolotti battling together. Bortolotti driving in the Masters class here, and Fanton getting his first experience behind the wheel of a Porsche GT3 Cup car this weekend. A battle for 8th on the track.
Yeah, that's right, Dave. I caught up with Perry Bortolotti earlier in the weekend. This is his first race this season. New car for him. He's still coming to terms with the car. The ABS on the race car is also new to him, and he's still learning that.
Riding on board, the number 83 of Neil Walker in the Porsche Center North Toronto entry, trailing the Porsche Prestige number 08 of Martin Harvey. A battle for 10th spot, and they're side by side on the exit of turn number 2. Tough to make it stick, though. You get a run on the inside, and then you're on the outside for turn number 3. It must be frustrating as a driver.
Yeah, it's a little cat and mouse, give and take. Here we see the cars working through turn 5 again.
That's the downtown Porsche entry of Stefan Radzinski. A little different look this weekend to that car. Radzinski finishing on the podium in race number 1 of the weekend, race number 3 for the 2018 series. He now has Jeff Kingsley in tow, driving for Porsche's Center Oakville. 2 Polycaro Motorsports entries, one with a red hatch and the other one with a blue hatch, and they're both in the same place on the track.
Yeah, great looking liveries. This is a first year into a full-blown race car for Jeff Kingsley coming out of go-karts, so big step up, and he's doing a great job here so far.
He got his first taste of it at Sebring in rounds number 1 and 2. He's in the draft of Stefan Rudzinski right now, putting pressure on Rudzinski as we'll take a quick break here from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Robuchon leads. The 2018 Porsche GT3 Cup Championship on TSN is brought to you by Porsche. Still under green as we pick up this battle for 4th spot. Stefan Rudzinski, Jeff Kingsley, now Michael DeMaio in there, and don't count out the number 77 of Patrick Dussault as Kingsley looks on the outside in turn number 8.
That's a great move, and I've seen it stick before. Good, mature racing here, side by side. As he looks in turn 10, oh, looks like they make a bit of contact. Opens up the door for the 35.
Yeah, Michael DeMaio and the other Porsche Center Oakville, the Polycaro Motorsport entry, really all covered by a blanket now here for 4th spot. Stefan Rudzinski maintains that position. Kingsley lucky to hold that 5th position, and now he's under pressure from Michael DeMaio.
That turn 10's a tough place to make it stick. I've seen a lot of cars end up pointing the wrong direction after a move like that.
The 77 of Patrick Dussault driving for Porsche Lausanne and Porsche Rive Sud. Now we'll take another look at what happened. Kingsley saw an opening and went for it.
Yeah, if I'm in the number 8, it's just a split second to take a peek in the mirror. Barely enough time to see if a guy's there. Now we're on board with Stefan. You can see he's defensive, and I don't think he saw Kingsley coming up the inside.
But he did what he needed to do to maintain control and get back into that 4th position. There's a good look at Patrick Dussault. Currently sits in 7th spot, trailing that grouping, but not by much. And look at Fenton is catching. Harry Bortolotti is also catching in the other Mark Motors entry, too. So this is becoming quite a racy little group here in the middle of the pack.
This is, and it's a fast track. It's a momentum track. You lose a bit of time in turn 1, it takes the whole lap to get it back.
Still, your race leader is the number 98 of Zachary Robuchon, now with a 1.2 second lead over Roman DeAngelis. There's a good look at DeAngelis in the 78, as we mentioned off the top of the show, racing in both the Canadian and American championships. Comes into this one 2nd in points in the Canadian championship, trailing his teammate Zachary Robuchon. So he wants to gain ground. He needs to get one position better here today.
We're seeing a lot of comfort and confidence out of Zach Robuchon. This is his 3rd year in these cars, and it's paying off as he's leading the race here today.
Riding on board as he works through turn 9 and 10. Here at the Castrol presents the Victoria Day Speed Fest at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. And really, 2018 is Zachary Robuchon's year, isn't it? I mean, the first year he ran in this series, he was trailing Daniel Morad and Scott Hargrove. They battled out in front of him. He did come away with a couple wins that year. Last year, he battled with Scott Hargrove all season long, coming home 2nd in the points championship. This year, it really is. The crown has moved over to Zachary Robuchon, and he's expected to excel.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Dave. You know, as I was coming through the ranks, I was always told, you know, you go into any championship your first year, it's a learning year. Your 2nd year, you got to go and you got to win races and you got to fight for the championship. You know, being that this is Zach's 3rd year, we saw him win a race last year, and this year I think we expect that he'll be a championship contender. Let's not forget about DeAngelis. He's putting in a lot of seat time in Porsche Cup cars this year, and I expect he'll be a championship contender as well.
And the gap between the two still 1.2 seconds. You see it over to the left of your screen. Then quite a distance back to Remo Ricchetti, who is sitting all by himself in 3rd, and that is once again the battle for 4th, and now it's more a battle for 5th between the Polycaro Motorsports entries of Jeff Kingsley and Michael DeMaio. You got to tip your hat, though, to Michael DeMaio. Again, this is his first race weekend behind the wheel of a Porsche GT3 Cup car. He does have some experience in full-fendered race cars, but this is vastly different to anything he's raced in before.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, Dave. I remember Michael DeMaio from several years ago racing go-karts, and he was always a tough competitor, always fast. It's good to see him get a drive here in the Porsche Cup Canada and show speed and competitiveness.
As a matter of fact, he's been out of a competitive race car for several years after winning the championship in the Pirelli World Challenge, driving a touring car at just 21 years old. That was back in 2014. Unfortunately, nothing really worked out as far as a competitive ride goes until this year. He gets behind the wheel of the Polycaro Motorsport Porsche Center Oakville entry, and he's doing very, very well, showing that he's very comfortable behind the wheel early on. It's a great shot because it shows just how rough it is in between 5A and 5B at the slow end of the racetrack. These cars especially, just tend to bounce through there quite a bit. Does it upset you as a driver as you try to link your corners together?
Yeah, these drivers are very busy as they come down through turn 4, nearly flat out in 5th gear, and downshifting to 2nd. They're hard on the brakes for turn 5. Very busy section of the racetrack.
And there you see once again Michael DeMaio still in the draft of the 16 of Jeff Kingsley, as those two have been tied by a short string nearly since the drop of the green here today. Will DeMaio take a look going into 1? Not really, but he does close the gap just a little bit more. Turn 2 may present an opportunity as he gets a run in between 1 and 2. Now he takes a look to the inside.
You know, we've seen this at every level of competition. Racing your teammate is one of the most challenging things to do. Beautifully well-executed move on up the inside of turn 3.
Just using that little bit of runoff on the exit of turn 2 helps so much on your run into 3, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does. And, you know, this track has changed a lot over the years. It wasn't more than 5 years ago that runoff wasn't there and 2 wheels would have been in the grass. But today, we see a mistake from DeMaio as we come into turn 5. As I said, a busy section as he was on the binders downshifting. Looked like he might have just lost the rear of the car going into 5B and gave the spot back to Kingsley.
Saw the brake lights jump on the number 35 Polycaro Motorsports entry, and now look who is in his rear view mirrors, the 77 Porsche Lozo entry of Patrick Dussault. Patrick Dussault coming out of the NASCAR Pinty Series a couple of years ago. Last year was his first year, his rookie season, in the Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada, presented by Yokohama. Now he's putting the pressure on another rookie. All the while, Zachary Robuchon continues to open up a gap up front. Welcome back to the 4th round of the 2018 Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada, presented by Yokohama. I'm Dave Bradley, along with Kyle Marcelli and Todd Lewis's trackside. Zachary Robuchon has led since the drop of the green, and with more in our lead group, here's Todd.
Yeah, guys, checking in with the Mark Motorsports team. They're very pleased with how their drivers are doing, of course, with Robuchon and DeAngelis running up front 1-2. They keep reminding them, though, behave. Those tires have to last for the entire race. The team is equally impressed with Perry Bartolotti, who is running an incredible pace. He's jumped up through the field, 4th quickest on the last lap by. Not bad for the old guys, what they told me.
Well, Todd, the old guy does have some experience behind the wheel of a GT3 Cup car. As a matter of fact, he won the championship back in 2011.
We're seeing more racing action from the Polycaro cars as they go side by side into turn 3.
Kingsley a little bit wide on the entry to 3, and Michael DeMaio had to back down. He tried to come back to the inside, but falls in line in through turn number 4. Again, Patrick Dussault is in their wake, not too far behind. These 3 cars have been clumped together very, very tightly nearly all race long through the first 15 minutes of this one. And you see Michael Fanton is not too far behind that group as well. And what a great run this weekend for the man from Toronto, Ontario, driving for Engineered Automotive. He has Daniel Morad, a former champion, acting as a driver coach this weekend. So getting some pretty good advice here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Again, these guys are side by side. It looks like DeMayo's going to make it stick.
Up on the outside,
nope, he gets up in the marbles and just couldn't hold it. Now he's loose off of turn 9. Man, he's working these tires hard.
He is getting everything he can out of these Yokohama tires. Now a run to the inside in turn number 1. Side by side, two teammates, two youngsters trying to prove what they can do in the Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada. And now Patrick Dussault is looking for a good run here today, is in there as well. But what a move by Michael DeMaio.
Yeah, that was a great move, Dave. I think we're seeing that DeMaio has just a bit more speed. You know, as he got by earlier, he made a mistake and had to give the spot back. Hopefully he's learned from that mistake as he comes back into turn 5 now, already extending the gap by 5 car lengths.
Considerably so. Yeah, you're right, Jeff Kingsley now in a battle with the 77 of Dussault. DeAngelis still chasing Robuchon out front, though. The Mark Motors juggernaut of Zachary Robuchon and Roman DeAngelis continue to pace the field. Then you've got the 96 of Remo Ricchetti in his open road entry sitting in 3rd.
That's right. All 3 cars, along with the 84 of Perry Bortolotti, being prepared by the Best Line Auto Tech Group out of Concord, Ontario. That team's always come prepared, and it shows with their finishes here in 2018.
They had some work to do on that 96 car of Remo Ricchetti after race number 1 this weekend. But the car put back together well, and Ricchetti very much in the fray. As a driver at the end of the straightaway, do you look at the tack for downshifting, or you just do it on field?
Yeah, you don't have much time to be looking down. You know, with the technology in the cars and the tires these days, we're coming into turn 8 faster and faster. Here we got the 83.
It's Neil Walker in the Porsche Center North Toronto entry, around between 5A and 5B, and he'll get it right. You see coming down the hill out of turn number 4, that's the 08 of Martin Harvey, and this will be a fight for position. Have another look at what happened to Walker.
Yeah, it looks as though he just grabbed that downshift a bit too soon for the wheel speed of the car, and it locked the rear and turned him around.
Once it starts to wiggle, you're really along for the ride, aren't you?
Yeah, at that point, it's clutch in as quick as you can and kind of put the car in a false neutral, hopefully, to keep it going forward. But it caught him off that time. He's back on track now. And as you said, in a race for position with the 08.
Yeah, the Porsche Prestige 08 of Martin Harvey. It's a battle for 10th spot. Neil Walker still has it, but now he has his mirrors full. A good look at your race leader and your points leader here in 2018. The number 98 Mark Motors entry of Zachary Robuchon comes in with a 17-point cushion over his teammate, Roman DeAngelis. Remo Ricchetti in the 69, 19 points. Adrift of your leader coming into this race in the 2018 championship. But really, Robuchon has not set foot wrong at all this weekend. He has been perfect.
No, that's just right, Dave. It's a very different race for Robuchon here today, much like the battle for 5th that we saw earlier. You know, he's got the speed. It becomes really a qualifying race. You're just trying to set quick lap after quick lap, not make mistakes, and hold on to the lead.
Speaking of a driver who really needs a good finish here today is Remo Ricchetti in the open road number 96. Super troubles in the wet on the Saturday race here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. As we mentioned, the crew had to do a lot of work overnight. They did so, got the car really righted and really comfortable for this driver, and he's doing well on the podium as it sits right now. Battle for 7th spot between Kingsley and Perry Bortolotti, the 16 Holly Carroll Porsche Center Oakville entry, and another one of the Mark Motors entries. And the leader in the Masters class is Perry Bortolotti. he must be smiling ear to ear and behind the wheel of that car. He's doing so well this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. He's one of those guys that just have a lot of experience here at CTMP and a lot of experience in a Porsche Cup car. You know, what's new for him, this is a new car. He's got an anti-lock braking system, which is new. You know, he's coming to grips with that in turn 3 and turn 5, and obviously with each lap getting quicker and quicker.
Welcome back to round number 4 of the 2018 Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada, presented by Yokohama. We're at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park in Bowmanville, Ontario. And this a battle for 4th spot. Michael DeMaio in the 35, taking a look in turn number 1 underneath the 8 of Stefan Rudzinski.
That 35 is hooked up. We saw earlier just a lot of speed, made one mistake and had to fight to get the position back again, but here he is chasing Stefan Rudzinski.
Rudzinski has really been comfortable in 4th spot for nearly the entire distance at this point. Just under 20 minutes remain in this 45-minute timed race. Finished on the podium yesterday. He does have experience here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, actually in the NASCAR series when he filled in for Alex Tagliani a few years ago. But now he's got a young, hungry competitor in Michael DeMaio who has something to prove, and he's putting the pressure on.
I think we're seeing that as we look down the entire grid, Dave. Just one young gun after another, and it's great to see in a championship like this.
It really has changed the face of this series, hasn't it? It's gone from a lot of gentleman drivers to a lot of young up-and-comers looking to take that next step in the motorsports ladder. Much the same as you did early in your career.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of guys come out of go-karts right out of the Formula 1600 championship, and you know that open wheel thing is just it's really tough and requires a lot of sponsorship, a big financial commitment. You know, the sports car route, there's more career opportunities, and I think some of these young guys are being steered that direction, and Porsche has always been a great platform for it.
A Porsche Center Oakville backed entry, the 35 of Michael DeMaio, chasing the downtown Porsche, the number 8 of Stefan Rudzinski, the man from Edmonton, Alberta. Currently in 4th, but under significant pressure now as they work through turn number 3. It's really, at this point, Michael DeMaio is just looking for that one mistake, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, and you know, this place, as we've said over and over again, it's so fast, requires your full attention. You know, all you got to do is just make one mistake, and the position's lost.
Battle for 7th spot. There's Jeff Kingsley and Perry Bortolotti. That continues through turn number 5. Bortolotti not giving up on the pressure on the youngster Jeff Kingsley, who's from nearby Ajax, Ontario. So this another home track race for the driver of the Polycarro Motorsports entry. Again, Porsche Center Oakville backing that number 16. And back up at the front, the 35 is now making a hard run for 4th on the downtown Porsche machine of Stefan Rudzinski on the front straightaway and into turn number 1. They make contact. Rudzinski around, he locks it up and he avoids the tire wall. But it appears as though he has stalled way off in the runoff area, but he got lucky there. That could have ended a lot worse. Michael DeMaio in the 35 now up into 4th position after making contact in turn number 1. He was not going to be denied in that attempt for 4th position. Let's have another look.
Dave, I hate to say it, I think that was just an over-ambitious move. You know, Michael had a lot of speed in the car. There's still 18 minutes on the clock. I don't think that was the time to do it.
On board with Rudzinski. Credit to Rudzinski. He got it locked up and he got it stopped in time before hitting the tire wall. Unfortunately, it appears as though he stalled, and now he comes to a rest up against that tire wall, and it does look like he can't get it fired. So he's now down a lap to your race leader, Zachary Robuchon. There he is as he works through turn number 5. So heartbreak for the Man who is on the podium in race number 1 this weekend as he's now sitting up against the turn 1 tire wall after a spirited challenge from the number 35 of Michael DeMaio.
Yeah, we saw just what a string of tough luck Stefan's having. We saw back at Sebring, we had some mechanical failures. Now the race is under full course caution, probably for the 8.
Yeah,
that's parked in turn 1.
That's exactly that. Hearing over the radio, IMSA putting out that full course caution as they will be able to retrieve the downtown Porsche Speedstar Motorsport entry of Stefan Rudzinski. You go from the highest of highs. You're standing on the podium for the first time in a GT3 Cup car, and now Rudzinski gets it fired, so he'll be able to drive back to the pit area if he so chooses, maybe just stay in the race. But you go from that super high on Saturday, and then you really have a low here on Sunday, unfortunately for him. He comes into this one 4th in points and really had a chance to make up some ground here today.
Yeah, with no damage on the car, he'll certainly stay in this race, but a lap down. And what a shame. He's had a string of rough luck, starting back at Sebring with a mechanical failure and contact here today. But it's Zachary Robuchon, your leader, and Roman DeAngelis in 2nd.
Welcome back to race number 4 of the 2018 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada on TSN. I'm Dave Bradley. Kyle Marcelli joins me in the booth. Todd Lewis is trackside as we get set for restart number 1. And this will be a single file restart with the lap down cars mixed into the group as well. You see the 83 of Neil Walker is a lap down, and he'll restart in the 3rd spot. And that is really affecting the 96 of Remo Richetti. You see the gap that opened up before turn number 1. Richetti struggled to clear the 83 of Walker, and now he's at a disadvantage going to turn 2.
Yeah, we see Martin Harvey as well. A lapped car trying to get out of the way going through turn 1. I'm not too sure why those lap cars didn't get a wave by the upper echelon series of IMSA, the Continental Sports Car Challenge and the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Those lap cars, if you're between the overall leader, and any car for position for that matter, you would go around the safety car and resume at the back. But we didn't see that here today, and it certainly affected the leader's race going into turn 1.
We've talked about some lap down cars. The 8 of Stefan Rudzinski back in the mix. He is 2 laps down to your race leader. But have a look at that battle for position. Michael DeMaio under pressure now from the 77 of Patrick Dussault. That's a battle for 4th spot as they head down the Andretti straightaway. And look at the lead the top 2 have built up already. 1.2 seconds the last time they crossed the stripe. Roman DeAngelis about 0.2 of a second adrift of your race leader, Zachary Robuchon, and his teammate. When we talked about DeAngelis racing in the U.S. Series, he's sitting 2nd in that points championship as well, but he already has a win in 2018 coming at Barber Motorsport Park down in the U.S., doing well.
Now we're right on board with Remo Richetti as they work their way through turn 1 into turn 2. You can see just how blind the approach is. As you approach turn 2 in 4th gear, top of 4th gear, almost 130 miles per hour, you've got to pick your turn-in point and be committed.
Now a bottleneck behind the lap-down car of Neil Walker for 4th spot. Up to the outside is Michael DeMaio, and Patrick Dussault will sneak through in the Porsche low zone. Porsche Rib Sud backed entry. The 77 goes to 4th. That's just a prime example of inexperience in these race cars and dealing with some of these drivers. Dussault was able to sit back, see what was going to happen, and he took advantage of it.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised also if Dussault just has better tires at this point. Early on in the race, we saw DeMaio and Kingsley going real hard, working those rear tires, and now we see a lot of speed from Patrick.
You see a good look at the Perry Bortolotti, number 84. And how about the 14, the engineered automotive entry of Michael Fanton, who's kept his nose in this one pretty much all day long. He's sitting well inside the top 10, I believe in 8th the last time he crossed the stripe. And he'll move past the lap-down car of Stefan Rudzinski. And Rudzinski really out now. Again, this is his first year in competition in a GT3 Cup car. This is now just a learning race, isn't it?
Yeah, he's got to be frustrated and disappointed inside the helmet. You saw experience there as he just moved over and let the cars on the lead lap go through. He's just going to collect points. That's all he can really do now.
Jeff Kingsley moving to the outside of the lap-down car, the Porsche Center North Toronto, number 83 of Neil Walker, the only driver in the Canadian Series who calls the USA home is Neil Walker. So it's good to see our American neighbors to the south joining the Canadian Series here in 2018, as they did in 2017 as well. Him and Max Toman share that ride over the course of the season, and both campaign all season long in the Canadian Series.
We saw Perry Bortolotti. Now he's lost a little bit of ground to Kingsley as they both worked their way through that lap car of Neil Walker.
You mentioned earlier the ABS on the Masters car of Perry Bortolotti. Is that an advantage or a disadvantage? You as a driver, would you rather to rely on computers or the seat of your pants feel?
Well, it's certainly an easier car to drive when you have that assist, and it's faster. You know, it's I can't give you an exact time around Mosport. It might be 3 or 4 tenths of a second faster. It's going to be less abusive on the tire, and for those reasons, you know, you're just going to get more lap time, more consistency out of the tire.
Speaking of lap times, Robuchon at the front continues to stretch out a lead, now just under 8 tenths of a second over his teammate, the 78 of Roman DeAngelis, I should say. But now comes the question of who has saved their stuff just a little bit more. Is it the youngster DeAngelis who can mount a challenge on the veteran Robuchon? We will have to see as the clock continues to tick down, now just under 8 minutes remaining in this one. That's just such a great sound. At full song on the Andretti straightaway, your leader Zachary Robuchon, Michael Fanton, continues to work his way up around the lap-down car of Neil Walker into turn number 8. The engineered automotive backed entry, the 14 of Fanton. Again, his first foray into GT3 Cup racing here this weekend, and did well. I mean, very challenging circumstances yesterday with the rain, the fog, slick track, cold temperatures. He managed to keep a clean car all race long, and he's got a very good car to race with here today.
This battle here for 4th is not over yet. We see the 77 go wide. Again, take advantage of that extra paved runoff. Michael DeMaio's back in the chase.
2 very different lines through turn number 3. Michael DeMaio trying to cheat a little bit to the inside to gain some ground. Patrick Dussault keeping up that momentum up on the outside, but now into 5, and DeMaio closes the gap.
I think DeMaio's got a lot of speed in that car today. I think he might have lost the position to Patrick with the lapped car, but he's certainly mounting a chase again with just over 6.5 minutes to go.
And when Patrick Dussault leaves the racetrack here today, he goes back to his position as a salesperson at Porsche Lozo, selling Porsche GT3 Cup cars. And who better to be a salesperson to be like, I know exactly what this car can do. Just a handful of laps remaining now. You see the crews with the stopwatches out. They'll be radioing back to their drivers and telling everyone exactly where they stand, and more importantly, those lap times. You see the last lap for Robuchon, a 120.745, a 120.943 for Roman DeAngelis. So Robuchon continues to open up that gap, albeit very, very slightly.
Actually, Remo Ricchetti proved to be the fastest car that last time by and closed the gap on both first and second. Again, just 5.5 minutes to go. The race is tight up front. Both second and third keeping Robuchon honest for position.
Well, we've talked about the Mark Motors, the juggernaut, as I called it a little bit earlier on this race, but really that open road entry of Remo Ricchetti, it was competitive all last year in his first season in GT3 Cup racing, and this year he has shown great signs of speed. Yesterday had a few troubles here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, but today he has been very, very quick.
Yeah, he certainly has. I hadn't had much time to catch up with Remo. He's got the speed. He's proven that. It's just, little mistakes getting in the way of the result.
Well, he missed a few races last year, too, so that sort of hurt his progression over the course of the season. Unfortunately, a big incident at Watkins Glen, New York, sidelined him as the crew went to rebuild that entry. But the car seems in good shape here in 2018, and again, clicking off very fast laps, just a 10th off with the leader put down, or for a best lap in this race here, round number 4.
Yeah, the top 3 are exchanging fast lap each time by.
And that's what you get when you get the open air, too. I mean, you're able to click off those very quick laps.
Again, 2 very different lines from Dussault and DeMaio going into turn 3. DeMaio taking a wide approach, and Dussault a little more of a tighter line up the inside. That could just be the tire condition that they have. If your car is loose, you're going to want to turn in early. If your car is tight, you're going to want to turn in later.
Well, that's interesting. So you can control exactly how your car feels just based on where you are on the racetrack. The clock is ticking down, though. Under 4 minutes remaining in this 45-minute timed race. Zachary Robuchon has led since the drop of the green. But this, a battle for 4th and 5th. Patrick Dussault in the 77, the 35 of Michael DeMaio is giving chase. Michael DeMaio seems to have been giving chase to somebody nearly every lap this entire race. But there is your leader, the man from Ottawa, Ontario, the 98 of Zachary Robuchon, well in command. Would he be taking it easy at this point, knowing that the laps are ticking down, that the clock is getting smaller? Would he be backing off just a little bit and keeping DeAngelis exactly where he needs him to be?
I think if he had a bit more margin, he would be. That's the smart thing to do at this point in the race. But 2nd and 3rd are, less than 2 seconds behind. Every 10th of a second matters, and I think he's pushing with every lap.
Well, Zachary Robuchon continues to lead. His mirrors filled with his teammate. We are coming to the conclusion of the Ultra 94 Porsche GT3 Cup Challenge Canada by Yokohama here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. 17 turns remain. Zachary Robuchon, Roman DeAngelis, and Remo Ricchetti, your top 3. 2 seconds separate those 3 cars on track.
That's right, just over a minute remaining. But the cool thing about motorsport, anything can happen until the checkered flag.
Look at that. Ricchetti, his last lap by the stripe, 0.4 of a second quicker than your race leader. So don't count out the open road entry of Ricchetti sitting in 3rd as he buzzes past here on the Andretti straightaway. He seems to be the one who is the aggressor through the final 10 minutes of this race. He has been pushing probably the hardest out of the top 3 cars. Robuchon onto the front stretch. He will see the white flag this time by 1 more lap. 10 turns here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
We'll see if experience pays off. That white flag lap as the race leader is one of the most hardest laps you're going to drive. Mentally, you just want to stay in the moment. It's easy to think ahead and I'm going to win this race, but it's so crucial that you stay in the moment and drive the race car corner by corner.
It's not very often you see Zachary Robuchon make a major error that would cost him the win, but never say never. It could happen, but Robuchon is fairly comfortable out in front of this one. 1.399 seconds was the gap back to 2nd the last time they crossed the stripe as they worked through turn number 5. This, though, a battle for 4th spot that has continued for the last few minutes, and it is Dussault and it is DeMaio. DeMaio in the Porsche Center Oakville, number 35, chasing the Porsche Low Zone Porsche Rive Sud, number 77 of Dussault. Down the back straightaway, you see DeMaio tucked up underneath in that draft. It does make a difference, doesn't it, Kyle?
Yeah, it sure does. He's going to have one chance to do it and maybe turn 9-10, but let's go back to the race leader, Zachary Robuchon, as he comes onto the start-finish line. and takes a well-deserved victory here today at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Checkered flag for Zachary Robuchon, his 8th career GT3 Cup win. His teammate will come home in second. The battle for 4th will finish in favor of Patrick Dussault in the 77. Michael DeMaio will settle for 5th spot, but a spirited drive by both those drivers.
Yeah, what a great race to watch. Great drive by Michael DeMaio today. Shame about the contact with Stefan Radzicki, but nonetheless a great drive.
He'll be getting the congratulations of some of the other drivers as they work around Zachary Robuchon, though. Dominant all race long, right from the drop of the green. He led into turn number 1. We had some contact through this one as Kingsley got together with the aid of Stefan Radzicki. And then it was a pair of teammates. The Polycaro Motorsports entries of Michael DeMaio and Jeff Kingsley went back and forth for several minutes through the middle. A quick spin by the 83 of Neil Walker, and then this contact. Sending the 8 of Stefan Radzicki up to the turn 1 wall. When we went back to green, it was a dominant run by the 98 of Zachary Robuchon. He held off his teammate, held off the 96 of Ricchetti, and takes the win. Let's go down to victory lane and Todd Lewis. Todd?
The helmets are coming off. The congratulations coming from his teammate, Roman DeAngelis. Zachary Robuchon is smiling and enjoying another victory. The streak here continues at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park and also at this season in the Porsche GT3 Cup.
It's been a great weekend. You know, like you said, the streak continues. I think I made sure to put on a good show, and we have the TV crew here at CTMP. But no, it's been a fantastic start to the season. You know, the fact that Roman and I could, you know, set the pace like that at the front of the field is just a testament to the entire Mark Motors racing team. Every single one of them deserve this more than either of us do. So I'm really proud of what we achieved. And it was it may have seemed like it was lonely at the front, but I was pushing 110% every lap. So, you know, they were so quick behind that I couldn't let up for a single lap. So it didn't seem too stressful, but it was tough out there. Yeah.
Zach Robuchon, a winner once again in familiar territory, top step of the podium.
Yeah, big congratulations to Zachary Robuchon and a well-deserved victory today. You know, he drove up front with confidence and comfort, and like I said, it was a race of his own. He was racing himself. It was a qualifying lap every lap of the race. Great job to Zachary Robuchon.
As we take a look at the top 10, Patrick Dussault, Michael DeMaio, that great race for 4th and 5th. How about Perry Bortolani coming home in 7th? Let's go down to Todd with your 2nd place finisher.
Roman, a pretty perfect weekend for the team with 1-2 finishes. I know you want to be the guy who finishes first at some point soon, though.
Yeah, I mean, obviously a positive this weekend as Mark Motors put both races a 1-2 car. So really good job by Zach. He's one hard guy to keep up with, especially in the wet. So obviously an amazing car this weekend by the Mark Motors crew, and I'm really happy about the results. Hopefully next race in Montreal we can bump it up by 1 position, but definitely one hard guy to chase. So thank you guys.
Thank you.
A solid young professional, a great race by Roman DeAngelis today, and I think we'll expect big things in the future from him.
He talked about bumping it up because Zachary Robuchon extended his points lead at the front of the field. Now 20 markers between the two Mark Motors teammates. Thomas Illner, the Director of Sales for Porsche Cars Canada, on the podium, set to hand over the hardware to Zachary Robuchon, the winner here today at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Congratulations with his teammates and with Remo Ricchetti. The photographs before the champagne flies here on the podium. This Porsche GT3 Cup Championship race is brought to you by Porsche.
And there's nothing better than the sweet taste of champagne on a victory race weekend.
For Kyle and Todd and all of the members of Fuel Media Lab, I'm Dave Bradley. Thanks for joining us here on TSN.